The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down, by Haemin Sunim. Introduction. I want to tell you a quick story. There was a young mother whose husband had been tragically killed in a car accident. She was lost, drowning in grief, and had decided to end her own life. But one day, she stumbled across a simple, short message online. The message was about learning to love yourself, because for her, love had always meant giving it to someone else. That single, gentle reminder, sent out into the world by a stranger, saved her life. The man who wrote that message wasn't a celebrity or a politician. He was a Zen Buddhist monk named Haemin Sunim, who had started sharing his thoughts on Twitter, hoping to connect with people and offer a little bit of calm in a chaotic world. He never expected the incredible response. Soon, millions of people were following him, not just for advice, but for a moment of peace. His collection of these thoughts became a book, The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down, and it became a phenomenon. In his home country of South Korea, it sold over 3 million copies, a number that's almost unheard of. And it wasn't because it offered some complicated secret to success. It was because it offered something far more valuable: permission. Permission to rest. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to be happy right now, not someday in the future. The author himself has lived a fascinating life. Born in South Korea, he came to America to study film, but found himself drawn to a spiritual path instead. He was educated at some of the world's most prestigious universities, UC Berkeley, Harvard, and Princeton, before receiving formal monastic training back in Korea. He's a man who understands both the pressures of the fast-paced Western world and the deep wisdom of ancient Eastern traditions. And today, I want to share that wisdom with you. Because if you've ever felt overwhelmed, stressed out, or like you're constantly running but never getting anywhere, then I promise you this: by the end of our time together, you will understand the one fundamental shift in perspective that can bring peace to a busy mind. It's a secret that has nothing to do with changing the world around you, and everything to do with changing the world within you. Book summary. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a frantic day, your mind racing with a dozen different worries, and you stop for just a second and ask yourself, why am I so incredibly busy? We all feel it. The pressure, the rush, the constant motion. But the author asks a question that changes everything. He asks, is it the world that's busy, or is it my mind? This is the very heart of his message. We tend to think of our mind as this small, private thing inside our heads, separate from the vast world outside. We feel like the world is this huge, powerful force, and we are just struggling to keep up. But the author, drawing on ancient Buddhist wisdom, explains that the boundary between your mind and the world is actually an illusion. He tells a beautiful story about a friend of his, a Buddhist nun who was overseeing the construction of a new meditation hall. She told him that when it was time to put tiles on the roof, everywhere she went, all she could see were roof tiles. She'd noticed their color, their shape, their material. Then, when it was time to install the wooden floors, all she saw were floors. And then, she had a sudden realization. The world we see isn't the entire world. It's just the small part of it that our mind is currently interested in. But to us, that small part feels like the entire universe. What your mind focuses on becomes your world. So if your mind is focused on being busy, on stress, on 100 different problems, then your world will feel busy, stressful, and full of problems. The world itself has never once complained about how busy it is. It just is. The whirlwind isn't out there, it's inside our own minds. This is an incredibly empowering idea. It means you are not powerless. You don't have to wait for the world to calm down for you to feel calm. The secret is to let your mind rest first. Because as the author so perfectly puts it, when your mind rests, the world also rests. Think about the last time you were stuck in a crowded subway car or a packed bus. You have a choice. You can get annoyed and frustrated by the people pressing in around you. Or, you can have a little fun with it and think, hey, at least I don't have to hold onto a handrail. The situation is exactly the same. But your experience of it is completely different. It's not the situation that is troubling us, but our perspective on it. So, if our mind is the source of our reality, the next big question is, what do we do when that mind is filled with a storm of difficult emotions? What happens when we're overwhelmed by anger, sadness, jealousy, or disappointment? Our first instinct is always to fight it. To control the emotion, to push it down, to get rid of it as fast as possible so it doesn't overwhelm us. But the author says this is the one thing that will never work. In fact, it makes things worse. He offers a brilliant analogy. Imagine a fish tank filled with water and mud. If you stir it up, the water becomes completely cloudy. Now, if you want the water to become clear again so you can see the fish, what's the worst thing you could do? Plunge your hands into the tank and try to force all the mud down to the bottom. The more you thrash around trying to push it down, the more you just stir it up and make the water even murkier. Our emotions are exactly like that mud. When we try to fight them and force them down, we just churn them up and they resurface even stronger. So what's the answer? It's surprisingly simple. You do nothing. You just wait. You let the tank sit, and eventually, all on its own, the mud will naturally settle to the bottom, and the water will become clear again. This is how we should treat our emotions. Don't fight them. Don't grab hold of them and turn them over and over in your mind. Instead, just observe them. Step back and watch the feeling of anger or sadness as if it were a passing cloud in the sky. Your awareness is the sky. It's vast, open, and pure. The emotions are just clouds that temporarily drift through. They can never pollute the sky itself. The key is to separate the raw energy of the emotion from the label you give it, like anger. The label is static, but the feeling itself is constantly changing. If you just watch it quietly, without judgment, you'll see it slowly change shape and eventually, it will just dissolve. It recedes on its own, as long as you don't keep feeding it by dwelling on it. The author says we should learn to befriend our emotions. And when you look deeper, you'll often find that the person who hurt you is also suffering. They say hurtful things because they themselves have been hurt. Understanding this doesn't excuse their behavior, but it allows you to see them with a little more compassion, which frees you from the prison of your own anger. Once we start to find this inner calm, it naturally begins to change how we interact with the people in our lives. Our relationships are often one of the biggest sources of both our happiness and our pain. And here again, the author offers a simple, powerful metaphor to guide us. He tells a story from his 20s when he went on a backpacking trip across Europe with a close friend from his monastery. For the first week, they were inseparable, spending every moment together. They had a great time, but eventually, they ran out of things to talk about and started to get on each other's nerves. It wasn't that they were fighting, they just needed some space. So one morning, they decided to explore the city separately and meet back at the hostel in the evening. At first, the author felt an incredible sense of freedom. He could go wherever he wanted, do whatever he wanted, without having to consult anyone. But as the day went on, he started to notice the downsides. When he needed to use the restroom, there was no one to watch his backpack. Eating alone wasn't as fun. When he saw something beautiful, there was no one to share the excitement with. By the end of the day, he was genuinely happy to see his friend again. From this experience, he learned a crucial lesson about relationships. He says that maintaining a good relationship is like sitting by a fireplace. If you sit too close for too long, you get burned. But if you sit too far away, you can't feel the warmth. The key to any healthy relationship, with friends, family, or a partner, is finding that perfect distance. You need enough closeness to feel the warmth of their love and connection, but also enough space to have your own independence and privacy. Too much closeness, and you feel suffocated. Too much distance, and you feel lonely. It's all about finding that gentle balance. The other major obstacle in our relationships is our own pride. We get into arguments because we're so determined to prove that we are right. This brings to mind another wonderful story the author shares, this one about a young, brilliant, and very arrogant government official in ancient Korea named Meng Sasong. One day, Meng went to visit a renowned Zen master and asked for advice on how to rule his village. The master simply said, "Avoid doing evil and do good for others." Meng was insulted. "Even a 3-year-old child knows that," he snapped, and got up to leave. But the master asked him to stay for tea. As he poured, he filled Meng's cup to the brim. And then kept pouring, letting the hot tea spill all over the table. "What are you doing?" Meng shouted. The master replied calmly, "You know that too much tea will ruin the floor, but you don't know that too much knowledge will ruin your character?" Embarrassed, Meng rushed to the door, but in his haste, he banged his head hard on the doorframe. The master gently said, "If you lower your head, you won't bump into trouble." This is such a powerful lesson. So many of our conflicts come from our pride, our refusal to lower our heads and just listen. We get so caught up in being right that we forget what's truly important. And the author asks a question we should all reflect on: isn't it better to be happy together than to be right alone? When you can let go of the need to win every argument, when you can listen with the genuine intention of understanding the other person's point of view, conflicts just melt away. This humility is the key to deep and lasting connections. And it leads to the ultimate act of humility in relationships: forgiveness. The author explains that we should forgive those who have hurt us, not because they deserve it, but because we deserve to be free. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy stone around in your heart. Forgiveness is putting that stone down, not for them, but for you. Once we begin to master our inner world and our relationships, we can start to look outward at one of the biggest questions in life: what is my purpose? What is my passion? Here, the author shares a deeply personal and humbling story from his own life. When he first became a college professor, he was incredibly enthusiastic. He was teaching a class on Buddhist meditation, a subject he was deeply passionate about, and he wanted to give his students the best possible experience. He gave them extra homework, graded their papers meticulously, and organized special events like picnics and talks at local monasteries. He thought that if he gave 110%, his students would be grateful and match his energy. But he started to notice a problem. While some students were appreciative, others seemed tired and began to lose interest. They started showing up to class unprepared, and some even complained about the extra events. The author felt deeply disappointed and hurt. He was giving them his all, and it felt like they were rejecting it. But when he stepped back and looked at the situation more clearly, he had a realization. His class was just one of 4 classes his students were taking. As important as it was to him, they had other priorities. His overzealousness was actually becoming a burden to them. He learned a crucial lesson that day. No matter how good your intentions are, if you demand that someone take a medicine, it can start to taste like poison. He had made the classic mistake of equating his own eagerness with effectiveness. True wisdom, he realized, is knowing how to control that overflowing passion and meet people where they are. The most dangerous people in the world, he observes, are those who have passion but lack wisdom. This story is a beautiful guide for anyone pursuing a dream. It's wonderful to be passionate, but we also have to be wise. When it comes to finding your calling, the author offers some very practical advice. First, read widely. You can't know what job you'll love if you don't even know what jobs exist out in the world. Second, get real-life experience. Volunteer, get an internship, try a part-time job. You won't know if you like something until you're actually doing it. And third, increase your self-awareness. Meet new people, go on dates, put yourself in different situations. Your relationships act as a mirror, showing you your own strengths and weaknesses. And perhaps most importantly, he offers 3 liberating insights that are perfect for anyone, especially a young person, who worries too much about what others think. First, people are not as interested in you as you believe. Think about it. Can you remember what your friend was wearing last week? Probably not. We're all mostly preoccupied with our own lives. Second, not everyone has to like you. You don't like everyone. So why should everyone like you? It's just a fact of life. And third, most of the things we do for others are, if we're being honest, also for ourselves. We help others because it makes us feel good. Recognizing these truths is incredibly freeing. It allows you to stop worrying about others' opinions and finally start listening to what your own heart truly desires. This leads us to the final, and perhaps deepest, themes of the book: love and spirituality. In a chapter that is remarkably open and vulnerable for a monk, the author shares the story of his first love. As a high school student in Seoul, he fell in love with an American missionary who was several years older and was due to return home to her boyfriend in the U.S. It was a one-sided love that was destined for heartbreak. And yet, he describes the experience as something sacred and beautiful. His thoughts circled around her all day, and his heart felt wide open. The whole world seemed more vivid and meaningful. He felt both incredible happiness and unbearable sorrow at the same time. In those final weeks before she left, he felt his own sense of self, his ego, just melt away. Nothing mattered except her. He realized that true love is a mysterious and powerful force, something far bigger than ourselves. Looking back, he feels no pain, only a deep sense of gratitude for the experience, because it introduced him to the wonder of devotion and gave him a glimpse of God. This idea of finding the sacred in the ordinary is a thread that runs through the entire book. It's not just in grand, romantic love, but in the simplest moments of life. He tells another touching story about a woman who came up to him after one of his talks. She shyly handed him a warm bottle of soy milk and apologized that it was all she could afford to offer. In a note, she thanked him for offering advice to such an unremarkable, ordinary person like me. The author was deeply moved and later wrote a message back to her, and to all of us who have ever felt ordinary. He wrote, "I want you to know that I love your ordinariness, because I, too, am ordinary. The truth is, we are all ordinary. No matter how successful or beautiful someone seems, we all face setbacks, heartbreak, and loss. We are all on the same difficult, beautiful journey." This is the essence of his spiritual message. It's not about achieving some superhuman state of perfection. It's about recognizing the shared humanity, the shared divinity, in everyone. He tells one final story about visiting a Christian monastery in Taizé, France, with a group of his fellow Buddhist monks. Though they came from completely different traditions, they were welcomed by the Christian brothers with open arms, as if they were long-lost cousins. He realized that when you go deep enough into any spiritual path, the outer labels and rituals start to fall away, and you find the same universal truths at the core: humility, love, and compassion. The conflicts we see in the world rarely come from the founders of these great religions, he says, but from their fanatical followers who get stuck on the surface. In the end, the path to a spiritual life, to a happy life, is not found in complex doctrines or rigid rules. It's found in the simple, profound act of slowing down. Because it's only when we slow down that we can notice the world around us, connect with the people in our lives, and hear the quiet wisdom of our own hearts. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through this beautiful book, I find myself thinking about why its message has resonated with so many millions of people around the world. In an age of life hacks, productivity guides, and the endless pursuit of more, this book offers a radical and deeply comforting alternative. It doesn't tell you how to do more, it gives you permission to do less. It suggests that the peace we're all searching for isn't something we need to acquire or achieve. It's something that is already there, waiting for us, buried underneath the noise of our busy minds. The true genius of Haemin Sunim's writing is its simplicity. He takes profound, ancient wisdom and makes it feel as easy and natural as breathing. The analogies he uses, the muddy fish tank, the fireplace, the overpoured tea, are so vivid and intuitive that they stick with you long after you've put the book down. They become mental shortcuts to a wiser, calmer way of being. What's most powerful, for me, is the sense of profound relief this book offers. The idea that people aren't thinking about us as much as we fear, that not everyone has to like us, and that it's okay to be ordinary, these aren't just nice thoughts, they are liberating truths. They lift a heavy weight off our shoulders, the weight of constantly trying to perform and measure up to some imaginary standard. The book gently guides us back to ourselves. It reminds us that our inner world shapes our outer reality, and that by tending to our own minds with kindness and awareness, we can find peace no matter what is happening around us. It's a message not of passive acceptance, but of quiet empowerment. So, how can you start applying this wisdom to your own life, right now? It doesn't require a grand gesture. In fact, it's all about starting small. Here are 3 simple practices you can try today. First, take a mindful pause. The next time you feel overwhelmed or stressed, just stop for 1 minute. Close your eyes if you can, and take one slow, deep breath. Ask yourself, what do I hear right now? What does my body feel? What does the sky look like? Don't try to fix or change anything. Just notice. This simple act breaks the momentum of a racing mind and brings you back to the present moment, which is the only place peace can be found. Second, do a fireplace check-in. Think of one important relationship in your life. Ask yourself honestly, are you sitting too close to the fire, feeling a bit burned out or suffocated? Or are you sitting too far away, feeling a little cold and disconnected? What is one small simple thing you could do this week to adjust your distance to a more comfortable warmth? Maybe it's sending a quick text, or maybe it's carving out an evening for yourself. Third, befriend one emotion. The next time a difficult feeling like anger, frustration, or sadness arises, resist the urge to fight it or distract yourself. Instead, just acknowledge it. Silently say to yourself, this is what anger feels like. Then, for just 30 seconds, observe it with gentle curiosity. Notice where you feel it in your body. Watch it without judgment, as if you were watching a cloud pass in the sky. You might be surprised by how quickly it changes and softens when you stop resisting it. In the book's epilogue, the author leaves us with a beautiful and profound idea. He says that as we slow down and quiet our minds, we begin to realize that there is a silent observer within us, a part of our consciousness that is always calm and still, just witnessing everything. He says that if you can connect with that silent observer, you have found your original face, the peaceful, true self that existed even before you were born. That is the ultimate promise of this book. It's a journey back to that original face, back to the calm, wise, and compassionate person you already are. You just need to slow down enough to see it. That was a summary of The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down by Haemin Sunim. We've explored the core ideas today, but I have to be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you the pictures, but it can't give you the feeling of the sun on your skin or the sound of the ocean. The real magic of this book is in the quiet moments you spend with it, when a particular story or a simple phrase lands in your heart in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your brochure, designed to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I truly encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you move through your daily life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a moment of peace today, it would mean the world to me if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.